Welcome back to Zodiac Talks Tarot, where astrology stops being a performance and becomes a mirror for human nature. Here, we don't talk about stars as distant lights in the sky, we talk about them as reflections of the patterns pulsing through your mind, your heart, and the strange comedy we call daily life. I've spent decades studying this cosmic dance, decoding how psychology hides in planetary movement and how every sign reveals not just personality, but evolution. Today, my dear Sagittarius, the message is simple: before you do anything, you should know this. If this video found you, it's not by accident, it's cosmic choreography. The universe doesn't toss dice, it arranges encounters with surgical precision. You were meant to be here, listening to this, because something enormous is approaching, a shockwave. But not the destructive kind. It's the sort that tears away old illusions and reveals the bones of your next beginning. Before you rush into action, before you strategize your escape or overthink your way into exhaustion, the task is to understand what's unfolding. Every Sagittarius carries an internal compass that points unrelentingly toward truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. That's your archetype, the seeker. It's mystical, awakened, and endlessly curious, though occasionally a bit too enthusiastic for its own good. You chase meaning the way some people chase sales, relentlessly, sometimes recklessly, but that hunger is holy. Hunger means you're alive, still searching, still willing to believe that life has something new to teach you. This surge of energy entering your orbit is not punishment, it's initiation. The universe is upgrading your system, pushing you through the spiritual equivalent of a software update, and yes, it might glitch a few of your emotional programs in the process. But even storms serve a purpose: they clear the air, shake loose what's stagnant, and make space for the sunlight to return. So breathe, Sagittarius. You're not breaking, you're being refined. The shockwave isn't here to test your strength but to remind you that you've had it all along. And when the dust settles, you'll see that what's arriving is not chaos, it's clarity, the kind that makes you laugh at how complicated you made things before the truth finally walked in. In astrology, 2025 is known as the year of triumph, but anyone who has ever truly triumphed knows that victory rarely arrives in a limousine. It usually shows up in an old pickup truck driven by struggle and discipline, honking impatiently until you finally wake up and deal with what you've been avoiding. For Sagittarius, this year's triumph is not about external rewards but internal refinement, the kind that tests how you handle your own energy. The cosmos isn't asking you to climb higher, it's asking you to manage your fuel better. Every bit of attention you spend is a kind of currency, and lately, you've been making some questionable investments. You've been saying yes to too many things and too many people, not because you wanted to, but because you were afraid that saying no would make you seem unkind. You've been the emotional janitor in everyone else's building while your own house collects dust. The universe, however, has impeccable timing, it knows when to intervene. And right now, it's placing a "closed for renovation" sign on your spiritual front door. The message is simple: protect your garden. Not the metaphorical backyard full of Pinterest plants, but the energetic one, the invisible space that holds your thoughts, emotions, and dreams. Each idea you nurture is a seed, and not all of them deserve sunlight. Some of them were planted by fear, others by obligation. You don't owe every passing thought a chance to bloom. A seasoned astrologer once told me that Sagittarius energy is like a wildfire: it's radiant, creative, but also dangerously generous. You give warmth to everyone and then wonder why you're exhausted by the end of the week. Protecting your garden isn't selfish, it's sacred maintenance. A Buddhist teacher would say that mindfulness begins with tending to what is already here, not chasing what might be next. Before you move forward, clean your soil. Pull out the weeds that pretend to be flowers, those habits and relationships that flatter your ego but starve your spirit. The truth is, you're not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're doing too much for the wrong reasons. Now, about that turbulence you've been feeling, it's not random. The spiritual weather has been intense because the universe is working with the chosen ones right now, and newsflash, you're one of them. But the chosen ones never get easy assignments. You came here not to fit into old systems but to create new frequencies, to live in a way that makes others rethink what's possible. That's why you felt delayed, misunderstood, even exiled from your old comfort zones. You're not late, Sagittarius, you're in divine preparation. The cosmos doesn't give trophies for speed, it rewards endurance. Think of the Six of Wands energy: victory, recognition, applause after the storm. But between the dream and the victory stand the Seven and Nine of Wands: boundaries, resistance, fatigue. You'll have moments when people test you, question you, even provoke you, and it will take everything in you not to fire an arrow straight through their nonsense. But this isn't about proving your power, it's about preserving it. Remember, the higher you climb, the thinner the air becomes. Not everyone can breathe where you're going, and that's okay. Don't come down just to explain yourself to people who aren't ready to climb. Let's talk about boundaries, Sagittarius' favorite debate topic and least favorite life practice. You love to discuss them in theory, as if they're an intellectual puzzle, but when it comes to enforcement, you suddenly turn into a diplomat at a family reunion. Here's the truth: boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They let in sunlight but keep out the mosquitoes. And lately, too many emotional mosquitoes have been buzzing around your energy, feeding on your time and your kindness. When someone brings their drama to your door, remember, it's not your circus, and those are not your monkeys. You can love someone deeply and still decline an invitation to their chaos. You don't owe anyone your constant availability, you owe yourself your peace. The guilt you feel for resting, for saying no, for putting your own oxygen mask on first, that's just the conditioning of a world that rewards burnout. In Buddhist teaching, there's a phrase: you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. The shockwave that's rolling into your life now isn't punishment, it's surfing lessons from the divine. You're learning to ride uncertainty with balance, grace, and maybe a little swagger. So, when things start shaking, when old habits collapse, when familiar faces pull away, when opportunities appear and vanish just as quickly, don't panic. Laugh a little. After all, Sagittarius, humor is your secret weapon. When you can laugh at chaos, it loses its power over you. Think of the cosmic irony: the same universe that's testing your patience is also cheering you on. This isn't destruction, it's calibration. The universe is fine-tuning your frequency so you can handle the triumph you asked for. Because, yes, triumph is coming. But it only belongs to those who can hold it without losing their peace. The universe isn't interested in how fast you move, it cares about how aligned you stay. So take this as your reminder: protect your garden, guard your energy, and don't let guilt convince you that peace is selfish. The waves are coming, Sagittarius, but you were born to serve. Every Sagittarius has a reputation for courage. You are the sign that leaps before looking, that books a ticket before checking the return flight, that volunteers for a challenge just to see what happens. But even in the bravest heart, there's a quiet stowaway: fear. It doesn't scream, it whispers. What if I fail? What if I'm not ready? What if they laugh? That voice doesn't vanish with age or wisdom, it simply learns new disguises. Sometimes it calls itself logic, sometimes humility, sometimes responsibility. But underneath, it's still fear, the most convincing liar in the Zodiac. Fear tells you to wait until you're certain. It promises safety in exchange for stagnation. It suggests that hesitation equals wisdom when, in truth, it's just paralysis with good marketing. The cosmic joke is that fear never really leaves you, it just loses its authority once you stop letting it drive the car. As someone who has spent years studying both psychology and astrology, I can tell you this: fear is biologically wired to keep you from getting eaten by tigers, not to stop you from publishing your novel, starting your business, or loving again after heartbreak. The brain confuses emotional risk with physical danger, and it manufactures imaginary disasters just so it can feel in control. Sagittarius, you've been letting your imagination write horror stories about futures that don't exist. You've rehearsed failures so many times that you've started to believe the script. But here's the liberating truth: you can acknowledge fear without obeying it. You can treat it like an overprotective relative, thank it for caring, tell it you understand, and then politely ask it to take the passenger seat. You're driving now. And yes, your hands might shake a little on the wheel, but courage is not the absence of fear, it's movement despite it. Every creative act, every honest conversation, every leap into the unknown is a rebellion against fear's dictatorship. Spirit's advice for you this week is not poetic, it's practical. Do it messy. Do it scared. But do it anyway. There is no perfect timing, no cosmic green light where everything aligns before you act. The universe rewards motion, not hesitation. You've spent months visualizing, meditating, manifesting, and that's all noble. But manifestation without movement is like sitting in a parked car, honking at the destination to come closer. It's daydreaming with incense. The law of attraction works best when it's paired with the law of momentum. Sagittarius, you are not meant to sit cross-legged forever waiting for a sign, you are meant to chase horizons until the wind learns your name. Action is your new form of prayer. Life is an obstacle course designed for your evolution. Each stone you leap is a test of commitment, not of perfection. Sometimes you'll trip and splash into the mud, sometimes you'll land gracefully, but the point isn't to stay dry, it's to keep moving. Even failure has its own kind of holiness. You were never built to spectate. You were born to explore, and exploration means occasionally getting lost. So if you fall, at least fall forward. The universe, ever the clever teacher, keeps sending you repeating signs, the numbers 6, 9, and 13. They're not random, they're a frequency map. 6 carries the vibration of love, the balance between giving and receiving. 9 represents transcendence, the wisdom that comes from letting go. And 13, the number everyone fears, is actually the blueprint of transformation. Together, they tell a story: love, release, and rebirth. This is your spiritual math for the year of triumph 2025. Every risk you take now adds up to growth. Every leap, even the clumsy ones, writes another line in the equation of your becoming. Now, let's return to something many Sagittarians prefer to dodge: boundaries. You love the concept, the philosophy of it, but enforcing them feels about as natural as sitting still for 8 hours. Yet this is where your freedom truly begins. Boundaries are not barricades, they are filters. They let in light but block the mosquitoes. You can keep your heart open without letting every storm blow through your living room. When someone crosses a line, you don't have to build a wall of silence or burn the bridge entirely, you just need better gates. You can teach others how to treat you without a sermon, just by modeling calm certainty. If someone throws chaos your way, don't volley it back. Return it gently, marked "no longer at this address." That's emotional Aikido, redirecting energy rather than resisting it. The trick is to hold boundaries with love. 6. The vibration of love is your shield now. Remember that when people lash out or act irrationally, it's rarely about you. Pain that isn't healed becomes projection. People start bouncing their unresolved stories off everyone nearby like emotional ping-pong balls, and you, being the compassionate Sagittarius, often catch what was never meant for you. Stop doing that. Not every invitation to drama deserves an RSVP. When you start protecting your peace instead of defending your pride, everything changes. You'll notice the air gets lighter, your thoughts clearer, your laughter louder. You're ascending in vibration, and not everyone can breathe in the altitude you're climbing toward. That's not arrogance, it's physics. As you evolve, some relationships will naturally thin out, like the air at higher elevations. Let them. The universe never subtracts without purpose. The people meant to travel with you will adjust their own oxygen tanks. The rest will find a lower summit that suits their lungs. The key is not to come down just to keep them company. You can love people without losing height. So here you stand, Sagittarius, half philosopher, half daredevil, facing a world that demands courage wrapped in patience. You've been tested by fear, refined by failure, and now you're being invited into alignment through action and love. This isn't just another phase, it's a recalibration of your entire operating system. You are learning that fear is loud but rarely accurate, that movement is medicine, and that compassion doesn't require self-sacrifice. The real triumph of 2025 will not be the applause you receive, but the peace you cultivate. You'll look back one day and laugh at how much energy you once gave to hesitation. You'll realize the dragons guarding your dreams were made of paper, and all they needed was one deep breath of courage to burn away. The universe isn't asking you to be fearless, Sagittarius. It's asking you to keep driving with fear in the passenger seat, love at the wheel, and laughter as your navigation system. Sagittarius has always been the Zodiac's eternal seeker, that restless soul scanning the horizon for something that can't quite be named. You are the philosopher with a suitcase, the poet with a boarding pass, the one who mistakes every plane ticket for a spiritual experience. Your life has never been about arriving, it's been about searching, asking, learning, forgetting, and then asking again. But here's the secret that takes most people decades to uncover: you're not chasing anything new, you're remembering something ancient. Every question you ask is not a hunt for knowledge but a breadcrumb leading you back to your own soul. You are both the wanderer and the path itself. The universe, especially in the year of triumph 2025, is not trying to test your limits just to see if you'll crack. It's shaping your endurance, strengthening your inner architecture. You're building the kind of stability that isn't found in a paycheck or a postal code. It's the kind that comes from knowing you can survive the storm without losing your sense of humor. The energy of 444 surrounds you now, divine protection, steady ground, and invisible scaffolding for the dreams you're still afraid to speak out loud. And let's be honest, Sagittarius without a challenge is like a philosopher without a question, bored and slightly dangerous. You need something to wrestle with, or else you start overanalyzing your own reflection and declaring it profound. So don't treat the current chaos as punishment, treat it as your next expedition. You're not the victim of change, you're its conductor, baton in hand, orchestrating a new rhythm for your life. The seeker's path has never been about finding paradise, it's about learning to make music out of motion. Now, let's talk about humor, your most underrated spiritual gift. You've got to laugh sometimes, right? The universe certainly does. It tells you to trust the process and then immediately cancels your flight, just to see if you've learned the lesson. It sends you a be patient sign right after your Wi-Fi collapses during an important meeting. The cosmic sense of irony is relentless, but maybe that's the point. Humor is the universe's way of reminding you not to take enlightenment so seriously. When you laugh, resistance dissolves. When resistance dissolves, energy flows. Laughter is the pressure valve of the soul. It doesn't erase the chaos, it just makes it breathable. So when your plans fall apart this week, when someone ghosts you or your neatly scheduled life decides to freestyle, take a breath, shrug, and say, plot twist. Those two words turn frustration into freedom faster than any self-help book. The moment you can laugh in the middle of the storm, you've already won. But there's a deeper truth beneath all this cosmic comedy: life isn't happening to you, it's happening with you. The universe isn't a chaotic puppeteer, it's a dance partner. You are not a passenger in destiny's car, you are a co-driver, hands on the wheel, deciding the turns. The universe provides the road, but you choose the direction. Every thought, every boundary, every small act of courage is a cosmic handshake. When you show up, the universe shows off. You've been manifesting, praying, and calling in new frequencies, and now those frequencies are answering back. The catch? They require your participation. Spirit can open the doors, but you still have to walk through them. This month, you're being prepared for a frequency upgrade, and yes, that may come with side effects. You might feel physically drained, emotionally raw, or spiritually overcaffeinated. Don't mistake that for punishment, it's proof that your old system can't hold the voltage of your new light. Your body, like your mind, is rewiring itself to handle higher awareness. Still, discernment matters. Some discomfort is spiritual growth, some just means you've been sitting wrong in your chair for 3 hours. The Buddha put it simply, wisdom is knowing the difference. Get the checkup and say the mantra. Enlightenment and common sense are not mutually exclusive. And before this message closes, Spirit insists on returning to a favorite metaphor: your energetic garden. Picture it vividly, soil rich with lessons, flowers of creativity reaching toward the sun, and a few stubborn weeds named fear, doubt, and people-pleasing that refuse to die no matter how many motivational podcasts you listen to. Your task now isn't to torch the whole plot every time something goes wrong. It's to tend it daily. Pull one weed at a time. Water what inspires you. Cut back what drains you. Stop chasing butterflies, they'll come naturally when you grow the right flowers. It's astonishing how much energy people waste chasing symbols of beauty instead of nurturing the roots that create it. This is how energy management becomes self-mastery, not by force, but through patient attention. You are, in the end, the gardener of your own frequency. The tools have been in your hands all along: a trowel of discipline, a watering can of laughter, and a pair of gloves stitched from faith. The universe is not against you, Sagittarius, it's in collaboration with you, improvising, evolving, playing along. Your only job is to stay awake in the process, to laugh when the absurdity peaks, to breathe when the weeds grow fast, to keep planting even when last season's flowers fade. Because the seeker's path never ends, it just changes landscapes. And as you continue through this year of triumph 2025, you'll realize something quietly revolutionary: you never needed to find the light. You were always the one growing it. There comes a point in every Sagittarius journey when life stops testing your patience and starts testing your creativity. You've reached that point. Something extraordinary is ready to flow through you: a project, a passion, or even a new relationship that reflects just how far you've evolved. But here's the catch: it won't come through control or calculation. It comes through play. The universe doesn't reward perfectionists, it rewards participants. The moment you loosen your grip, your spirit starts to move like water again. Maybe your medium is art, writing, music, cooking, mentoring, or simply the way you bring humor to heavy moments. Whatever form it takes, it's not just hobby, it's sacred practice. Creativity, in its purest form, is divine therapy. You don't need to be a master of technique, you need to be a translator of truth. Every brush stroke, every word, every dish, every small act of creation is a way of telling the universe, I'm still alive, and I'm still listening. You heal the world not by being perfect but by being real. You're the kind of person who turns everyday conversation into poetry without realizing it, who teaches others that laughter can be just as spiritual as silence. Don't worry if others don't get you. Sagittarius energy was never meant to be universally understood, only deeply felt. The right souls will find resonance. You are the shockwave in someone else's world, the spark that wakes them up just by showing up as yourself. You are proof that authenticity itself is an art form. Now, the universe sends you a peculiar but powerful teacher, the turkey. Not exactly the mascot of glamour, but profoundly symbolic. Turkey represents generosity, abundance, and gratitude. It teaches that wealth isn't built by hoarding, it's built by circulation. Energy, like air, must flow. The more freely you give your time, your compassion, your creativity, the more the universe refills your cup. You manifest prosperity by keeping it in motion, not by locking it in a vault. And if you've been quietly keeping score, telling yourself, "I've given enough, now I deserve something back," that's your ego talking. True generosity is an act of faith, not of accounting. The universe always balances its books, but it does so on its own timeline. When you give without fear, you align yourself with the rhythm of abundance itself. In Buddhist teaching, this is called dana, the sacred art of giving. You release attachment, and in doing so, you discover freedom. Generosity is, quite literally, the currency of the chosen ones. And speaking of signs, the angels are whispering the number 444 to you. It's the cosmic code for grounding, stability, and divine protection. You may not see the wings around you, but they're there in the form of people who show up at just the right time, opportunities that seem too coincidental to be random, and strength that appears precisely when you thought you had none left. These are your unseen allies, human and celestial, orchestrated by divine timing. This is the season when your hard work begins to bear fruit, when the invisible becomes visible. Whether in love, career, or self-worth, something is solidifying. Don't stop 5 minutes before the miracle. Remember, Sagittarius, the universe loves to deliver at the last possible moment. It's the cosmic sense of humor at work. And now, for the revelation that ties it all together. You're entering the year of triumph 2025 not as a wanderer lost in the wilderness, but as one of the chosen ones who carry light through confusion. Triumph, however, is not about applause or perfection, it's about transformation. You are winning not because everything goes your way, but because you've learned how to stay centered when it doesn't. The shockwave that began months ago? It wasn't chaos. It was your awakening alarm, ringing louder each time you tried to hit snooze. It's the universe saying, "Wake up, your higher self has been waiting." Don't be afraid of the unknown, you were born to explore it. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion, adventure, and the relentless pursuit of meaning. You're not built for static living, you're built for discovery. So take a deep breath. Ground yourself. Laugh when it gets messy. The mess, after all, is where the masterpiece begins. Every ending you face now is just spirit clearing space for your next beginning. Transformation doesn't always look graceful. Sometimes it looks like dancing barefoot through uncertainty and calling it joy. When Sagittarius finally stops running from change and starts dancing with it, the world itself starts to shift. You've spent years seeking wisdom, but now wisdom is seeking you. It shows up in laughter after tears, in courage disguised as curiosity, and in the quiet understanding that you don't need to chase purpose, it's already orbiting you. Before you do anything, remember this: you are not being shaken to break. You are being shaken to shine. The turbulence was never there to punish you, it was there to sculpt you. Somewhere out there, the universe is smiling, not because you've finally figured it all out, but because you've stopped pretending you need to. The seeker has found themselves, and that's the greatest discovery of all. So, Sagittarius, as you step forward into this luminous chapter, keep your humor, your honesty, and your wild optimism intact. Paint your life in broad, fearless strokes. Keep your heart open to the unexpected, because that's where miracles like to hide. And while you're at it, if this message has sparked something inside you, if it made you laugh, think, or feel a little more alive, don't forget to share it. Like this video, leave your thoughts below, and subscribe to Zodiac Talks Tarot. Because here, we don't just read the stars, we translate them into stories about what it means to be human. And you, Sagittarius, are one of the brightest stories the universe is telling right now.